What up, folks? It's your boy Tim again, also known as Chicago. Coming to you, as you can see, in the work van once again. I just wanted to drop a quick video, you guys. As you can see, the video is titled, "Is Joe Biden Responsible for the Fall of Afghanistan?" But before I ask you to do that, two things. I'm going to ask that you continue to like and subscribe or dislike. I'm okay with that too. It helps the analytics of the channel, whether you like the video or not. But go ahead and hit that subscribe button and you'll be notified when we drop these gems on you. Second thing I want to discuss is a new venture I'm working on, and that is the Tim and Rich Show, R-I-C-H, Tim and Rich Show, the Tim and Rich Show. If you go to Facebook, type in the Tim and Rich Show. Every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we are on live, tackling the latest and greatest issues, politics, racism, the woke culture, all of the things that you hear me talking about here, we talk about there, but the difference is we're doing it live. We have a number you can call in. You can talk to me or my moderate conservative co-host, Rich, or you can actually type live comments, and we do address the comments as well. So it's the same thing you see here, more frequency and done live. Every Wednesday night at 7 p.m., the Tim and Rich Show, the Tim and Rich Show. Go to Facebook, put that in the search, and that's where you will be taken. Is Joe Biden responsible for the fall of Afghanistan? Well, I always say when a team loses, it's the coach's fault. I mean, it is as simple as that. You don't get to blame the quarterback. You don't get to blame the pitcher for throwing too many easy lobs or whatever. For the most part, if the team loses, the coach is responsible, because if the team wins, the coach is going to take credit for that. He's the one you're going to be dumping Gatorade on. So Joe Biden is in charge right now, and it looks like what's happening in Afghanistan is a disaster. There is a Al Jazeera video. Now, Americans are showing the same video. I'm going to tell you about this. There is I believe it's a C-130, because they're right now evacuating a lot of the American dignitaries and things like that, and the VIPs. They're getting them out of Afghanistan, and they have this big, huge cargo plane. And as the plane is taking off, Afghanis who have helped America, who fear for their lives, fear for what the Taliban is going to do, are grabbing onto this plane, trying to hold on because they want to come to America. The American version shows the plane being surrounded by Afghanis as it slowly taxis down the runway, but it stops there. These people did not let go of that plane, folks. The Al Jazeera portion shows the plane taking off, and there are Afghanis that are lifted up several hundred feet in the air before, I suppose, wind resistance or something like that, and they can't hold on to the airplane. They fall down and plummet to the ground. So they really are fearing for their lives over there, so much that they were willing to hold on to an aircraft in hopes of being taken to safety. The issue is there's a lot of Afghanis, just like Iraqis did this, just like Vietnam and in every other war in U.S. history, or pretty much world history, where you help the enemy. And America is the enemy in Afghanistan. You help the enemy in hopes that when the enemy wins, they're going to reward you. There were people helping American soldiers in regards to translating things. There were Afghanis providing surveillance as to where the Taliban and where terrorists were hiding out, pointing them out, doing all sorts of things. Well, America just pulled out, and those people are still there. So essentially, they are snitches, treasonous, whatever you want to call them. I mean, they have a huge target on their back, and you best believe there are plenty of Afghanis in the country who know who they are. So when America pulled out, these people do not want to be left behind. I mean, for obvious reasons. Not to mention the way the Taliban treats women. Most women don't want nothing to do with the country either, because all of the gains that were made during the U.S. occupation are going to be lost, because the Taliban has already said they want to return the country back to Sharia law the way it was before America came over there. So is Joe Biden responsible? Like I said before, I blame the coach when the team loses. Now, here's the issue, though. And I say this because I don't want to sound hypocritical, but there's no way to not sound hypocritical. It's politics, folks. If this was happening under Trump or George Bush or any other Republican, we would be attacking Joe Biden the same way we would be attacking those Republican presidents the same way the liberals are attacking Joe Biden. But in reality, although it's happening under Joe Biden's watch, there's nothing he could do. We've been in that country for 20 years preparing the brothers of that country to one day be able to defend themselves and run their own country under a free democracy, similar to how we run ours and a lot of other first world countries run their countries. After 20 years, Joe Biden pulls the U.S. soldiers out, and within a month, the entire country is overran by Taliban. What could Joe Biden have done to stop that? Well, some would say, well, if Trump was in office, this wouldn't have happened. They're probably right. If Trump was in office, Trump would have just started kicking ass and we would have stayed in Afghanistan, which is exactly what the American people have made clear they do not want. The reason we're leaving Afghanistan is because American people have stated that we've been there way too long. This right now is the longest war in U.S. history. Under Trump, the American people wanted us to leave. Trump made a deal with the Taliban so we could leave, and they were supposed to do things that they're clearly not honoring under Joe Biden. They just said fuck it and took over the whole country. But fact of the matter is, if Trump had served an additional 4 years, he had already stated we were going to withdraw. He's the one that ordered the withdrawal. But if this had happened under Trump, America wouldn't look as embarrassing on television. We would have just extended our tour over there, which still is not a good outcome. It just doesn't make America look embarrassing. But after 20 years, Joe Biden pulls out, and a month later, they're taking over the whole country. So clearly, it's not necessarily a matter of anything that Joe Biden could have done. It shows that the Afghani people are not prepared to defend their own nation. I mean, this is kind of one of those things like a skateboard. You have to keep kicking it to keep it going. The minute you stop kicking it, it's not going to automatically go on its own. And that's what's happening on what appears to be happening with the Afghanis, is that they're just not prepared to defend their own country. Now, the argument is, after 20 years, why can't they do that? Why can't they do it just like they were doing it in terms of helping Americans maintain their country, which is what they've been doing over the last 20 years? They don't have the technology, folks. It's not necessarily that they're cowards. They don't have the technology. Americans over in Afghanistan, we have satellite surveillance. We have infinite amounts of wealth to pay people off, to pay people to snitch, which things we were doing. We can call in air support at any given time. We have drones, all of that. When we leave Afghanistan and we leave their own military in place to secure Afghanistan, we're taking all of those special weapons away. So now when the Taliban decides to attack an Afghani army or platoon or whatever, they don't have air support. They don't have satellite intelligence. They don't have any of this stuff. They don't even have all of the same armaments and weapons that we have. The fight becomes a whole lot more fair for the Taliban. To some degree, it even becomes lopsided in favor of the Taliban, which is why, at the end of the day, the military, once they didn't have any more U.S. assistance, like, screw this, we're going to get slaughtered. I mean, you're fighting people who are in normal clothing. They're not following any rule. And you're walking around in a Afghani, whatever their military uniforms are, you stand out. The Taliban does not stand out. They could be anybody. And they just did not have any of the proper training. The whole time America's been over there, supposedly helping the Afghanis be prepared to defend their own country, most of the heavy lifting has been done by us. So they've essentially been in training for the entire 20 years, and they've never really been given the reins to say it's like learning to drive, and all of your training is done while you sit in the passenger seat. You've never been given the wheel. And then all of a sudden they give you the wheel and you have an accident. So it's something similar to that. But is Joe Biden responsible? It certainly happened under his watch. And I can't defend him, like I said, because at the end of the day, whatever happens under your watch, it's your responsibility. But I just go back to my original statement. I don't think anyone could have done anything, because it's at the end of the day, it's up to the Afghanis to defend their own country. And like I said, even if Trump had won a second term and we didn't have Joe Biden, he would have been faced with the same two options Joe Biden is faced with. Either you withdraw and let the Taliban reclaim Afghanistan, or you extend the period of time we're going to be over there. Those are the two options. There really is no middle ground. At the very least, you can bring some soldiers home, some U.S. soldiers home, and leave a contingent behind to continue training them after 20 fucking years of training, which shows that something's not working. Or you can withdraw and deal with what we're dealing with now. I will post a link in the description to that Al Jazeera video showing what really happened once those transport planes took off. It really looks very similar to people jumping out of the buildings on 9/11. This jet is just literally covered with humans holding on for dear, or not jet, but this is a 4 turboprop aircraft with 4 propellers or whatever. But anyway, they're holding on in this large aircraft as it takes off for dear life. They're trying to get visas. They want to come to the United States. Very similar to what we're denying down south of the border is people are claiming that if you don't help us, we're going to be killed. That's probably what's going to happen in Afghanistan. I don't know how much of this will be reported, honestly, on American TV, but Al Jazeera and a lot of other channels or other stations, RT, Russian television, you hear about that network. Maybe Sky News out of London or out of the UK. You may see it on Sky News, but a lot of these other international news sources, BBC, British Broadcasting Company, they may report this because in America, we don't want it to really be known how bad this fuck up is going to cost the Afghani people. It's going to go right back to women pretty much being servants, pretty much having to do whatever a man tells them to do. And in some cases, they can be killed for things like adultery or homosexuality, or, just, there's honor killers. It's all medieval type shit. And we literally took over their country, occupied their country, and brought them closer to the rights and privileges that women have today in the free world, like places like America. And they're going to be returned all the way back to that medieval time shit. You're not going to see that on American TV much because it represents a huge embarrassment to America and a huge failure. But that will be shown on some of those international networks that I just mentioned. So I will probably be talking about this in the future and linking some of those videos up if they're even allowed to be shown on YouTube, because some of them are outright gruesome. To bury a woman in a hole and stone her to death because she cheated on her husband or because she's gay or something. We're not talking about just killing. We're talking about, decapitating folks and doing some pretty gruesome things that are part of the law. This is not a band of marauders or a bunch of rioters. This is the fucking law that they're passing that allows you to do this, where a whole crowd of people come out and the condemned woman, condemned for cheating or condemned for something ridiculous, is literally put on the ground and they're throwing stones on her until she's dead. This is the type of stuff that's their actual law. So they're going back from women being fairly free, able to go to school, get an education where they're at now under U.S. occupation, all the way back to that in a range of a couple months. That would probably be worse than going back to the time of slavery in America. It would probably be worse than that. So I just can't even imagine. So I can understand why anyone would hold on to an aircraft, knowing you're about to be thousands of feet in the air going at 400 or 500 miles an hour for dear life, because what is the opposite? It's going back to that shit. Give me liberty or give me death, kind of one of those things. So it's really sad. Like I said, I will link that in the description. Viewer discretion is all I can say. But is Joe Biden at fault? Yeah. But I don't really think there really was an alternative. I don't think, we can't stay there forever. And may he rest in peace. During the 2008 election, when John McCain and Barack Obama were debating back and forth, John McCain himself said we would have to stay over there for the next 100 years. That is a quote from the late, great John McCain, if you think he's great. But anyway, that's a quote from John McCain. We would have to stay there for the next 100 years. So Google that one. We've already done 1/5 of that time, 20 years, and looks like we haven't accomplished shit within a month of leaving. Anyway, folks, do appreciate you watching the videos. Like I said before, the Tim and Rich Show on Facebook. Put that in Facebook on a search. It will take you to our page. No obligations, man. All you get to do is watch a lot of good content, hear us talk, phone in if you want to say something, and like I said, drop a comment in there. We've been kind of running already. We've done a couple shows. We're still hashing out some of the bugs, but this is a good show, folks. I'm going to put my heart and soul in that, and I hope to hear from you guys soon. Talk to you later, boy. Chicago out.